Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up? Welcome to episode 184 of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Happy to be back for another week and excited. We're getting closer to the National. At the time of this, if you're listening to this at show day, we are under 40 days now. We're literally, you could say, a month away. That's very cool. And we're going to talk a little bit about the National with my guest today. That's not the only thing we talk about, but one of the things. We're going to even talk cigars, content creation, the National, Grail card. We each had sort of a parallel 1 or 2 weeks where we each got what we would consider our Grail cards. We found that sort of coincidental, but, we're going to talk a little bit about that. My guest is none other than Rob Girard of the Sports Card Therapist podcast, and getting to know Rob, really good guy. I always say, like, people who are genuine. There's no shortage of hobby podcasts. I think we all know that at this point. Lots to choose from. We all have, ones we like, maybe ones we don't. I thank you out there for enough of you that made this, maybe one of your favorites. But I like folks that kind of, give you the straight scoop, straight shooters. That's how I like to be. And I tend to get along with those kind of people more than, not the ones that aren't like that. So, and Rob, and talking to him off the air as well as on, if you will, is that kind of person. And that's, I like I said, I like those kind of folks, and easy to get along with and fun to banter with. So Rob's the guest, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I believe both of us did, and I think you will too.
It's time to start the show. Let's go. Time for our Hobby is the People announcer of the week.
This is Mike Summer from the Wax Pack Hero Sports Card Minute. Don't forget, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People announcer of the week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. This is Sports Card Nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. The show starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready? It's showtime.
Real excited to have my next guest on the Sports Card Shop at Moco guest line. That started his own podcast about a year ago, to tell you the truth, and burst on the scene doing big things. And I'm not going to make him wait too much longer. I want to, from Sports Card Therapist, Rob Girard, welcome.
Johnny Newman. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.
Well, I thanks for coming on, making some time. I know you're busy. You got a job, your dad, a husband, a card collector. I'm sure I left out a title somewhere in there as well. But, I listened to you, and you mentioned, when you started the podcast, that you kind of got back, about a year and a half before even starting the podcast. But I did catch, too, in one of your episodes, you had mentioned that you were about 7 or 8 years before that, you were buying like player lots on eBay. And just the way my mind works, I got to ask you, what happened from that 7 to 8 years ago, or probably 9 or 10 now from when you said it, when you were buying lots. So that what happened? You kind of got back out. I'll let you explain it, obviously.
Yeah, no, man. And, great question. I think it's like, so, I like most of us grew up collecting, going to the card stores with my dad and whatnot, opening packs, buying boxes, but mostly buying singles. I've always been kind of a singles guy. And yeah, so, got out of the hobby, mid 90s, right when I was in my teens. I was born in 82. So, got out of the hobby in the mid 90s, probably around 13, 14, when I really got into girls and got into high school. And around 2010, I was settled down with who my wife is now. And I don't know, I probably just like hit this period of like boredom or curiosity in like 2010, and yeah, got back into the hobby for a little while, but kind of just dipped one toe back in, so I started going on eBay, buying up all that junk wax that I had growing up, Montana, Griffey, everyone that I love, Jordan, Magic Johnson, all that stuff. And dipped my toe in by just really buying cards. I wasn't really involved. I wasn't going to card stores. I wasn't going to card shows, anything like that. And then I kind of just, I think because I really didn't know anyone that was involved in the hobby. So, I kind of just fell back out of it. And then, right at the beginning of the pandemic, I think I caught a little bit of that boredom again, and just kind of started doing a little bit of research, joining groups. Like, I didn't hear any buzz about the hobby being on fire or anything like that. It was really just like in 2010, I was kind of bored, and I was like, well, I always loved collecting cards. Let me look back into this. But it blew my mind how big the hobby had gotten by 2020. And I think, that combined with the fact that now I had an adult salary. I'm no longer bringing my allowance to the table. I'm bringing an adult salary now. And, the combination of everything kind of was like, whoa. And I haven't left. It's been just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's well. Hopefully you're here to stay. I think you are. I don't want to speak for you, but
well, listen. I know you've been doing your show since what, 2018. 2018.
Yeah, I'm the old man. I'm the old man on the porch, as the kids like to say. Yeah, it's crazy. And it's funny you say that, Rob. When you think of 2018, it's not like eons ago, and it's 4 years on the calendar. But in hobby terms, you know how that goes. That's it's like dog years, you know what I mean? That's like 28 years in hobby years. But yeah, Eric, I've said it, numerous times. Eric Norton was an inspiration to me from Beckett and Fat Packs, and got my start. When I got in, Rob, to content creation, like you said, in 2018, there wasn't many shows. There was probably 4 or 5 of us at the time. Matter of fact, I think there's only 1 or 2 or maybe 3 that are still going, with myself being one of them. And I always say this: I'm an honest guy. I got in really at the right time. The water was pretty open. What you did a year ago, the degree of difficulty there, if you ask me, is more difficult. You're dealing with a lot more. I don't want to say competition, because I think having a lot of shows also is a good thing. But it's a little more difficult kind of to navigate through more crowded waters, if you will. And
the highway was definitely backed up for sure. A year ago, The highway, it was a bumper jam, bumper to bumper traffic on this whole content creation side. And I think that it's kind of a, in order to stand out, and you can probably preach this, better than I can, but it's a combination, I think, of consistency, being your authentic self, and, bringing something to this lane that might be a little different, right? Like standing out. What are you doing to stand out? But on top of that, being consistent. And like you, have you missed a week in 4 years?
Yes, I have. I laugh because I had to think for a quick second. I usually, not every year to 4 years, Rob, I usually take Christmas week off. I just say, listen, I want to spend time with my family.
Well, I'm assuming I'm assuming you're dressing up as Santa Claus and going to the malls. All you got to do is die.
You're not gonna believe, I did that once at church too. I was Santa 1 year for the kids.
Listen, slap a gray beard on you, and I'm Saint Nick. I'm looking at him.
Well, at this point, you're gonna have to slap one on. It's coming in more and more each day. So as I age, but I think in 4 years, Rob, I've missed four shows, if you will, 4 weeks.
Wow.
Like you said, I think that's the number one piece of advice. I'm sure you get asked. I know I get asked from people who are thinking about getting into the content creation. Hey, John, you've done it 4 years. What piece of advice can you give me? You touched on two of them. You two big ones, right? Consistency. Whatever day you decide to have your show on, release it on that day. Or if I've been a day late. I know you did a post where you were traveling. If you communicate that, people understand. Hey, thanks for letting me know. I'll look for it the next day. When I went to Dallas, my quick hit show that I released on Mondays, I said, hey, everybody, you're going to see it Tuesday. And people appreciate that heads up. Had I not done that and I just didn't come out with it Monday, I would have probably had, 7 to 10 messages. What happened? Everything okay? Which is nice, too, that people care enough about you like they worry about you if you aren't consistent. So that's number one. And the other one, you said it, and you epitomize this as well, and I definitely try and think I do, is be yourself, right? I mean, people can smell phoniness from a mile away, but people are pretty smart, most people anyway. And I may use some funny sound clips and jingles and who knows what, but as far as me, that's what you see kind of is what you get, or what you hear is genuine. I don't say it, not everything I say people will agree with, and that's the beauty of life, is to have those discussions or debates and conversations. But if I don't mean it, I don't say it. And I think that's one of the biggest compliments I get, especially when I meet someone like in person. They're like, man, you're really just like you are on the show. And I'm like, I don't know what you thought I was gonna, maybe uglier in person, but other than that,
well, that's a given.
Yeah, I'm this. There's no shtick, and I just I be myself. I kind of straight shooter, and I think people appreciate that. I know I appreciate that you're the same way. There's not, without mentioning names, not every show can hang their hat on that hook, if you will. But I think we can, and I think people appreciate it. I know I've been told that. I'm sure you've heard it as well.
Yeah, and well, I tell you what, John. I mean, I think one reason why I feel like you and I just kind of click right off the bat is we share, I think, two passions, and one of those is collecting vintage. Right? I know you're a big vintage guy, just like I am, big vintage guy, and cigars.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm a big cigar guy as well. I know you are. And there's nothing like a good stick, just to kind of unwind the day and just to kind of relax and really, I like to sit outside on my front porch, really just breathe the air and just meditate by myself.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that. I'm on my back deck and usually with a beverage and a stogie and just kind of collecting your thoughts, kind of just unwinding. And it's a good way to kind of decompress. And, it's funny. I smoke most of my cigars during spring and summer and fall, cause I'm not allowed to smoke, in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So unless we get one of, I'm in central New York now. So unless we get one of them unseasonably warm winter days, my smoking season's kind of over. So I take advantage of, the better weather days. Someone asked me, how many cigars do you smoke? Really, it varies, but I'd probably say 3 to 5 a week on a good week, and less than 3 if I don't have the time, or I'm just too busy. And my wife actually, she wasn't even my wife at the time, but she got me into it. She had went to Jamaica before me with a friend, like a girls trip, and got into cigars there. And she's like, do you ever smoke cigars? And I'm like, no, not. I haven't even smoked. I've never smoked cigarettes. And she goes, we were in Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame, and we're walking the main street there, and there was a little cigar place at the time, and they had some flavored ones. So actually, I was like the training wheels of cigars. I did the amaretto and whatever other flavors they had, and then obviously once you learn how to do it and like it. And I kind of graduated onto the real ones, as we probably would like to say. So yeah, it's a nice thing to do, and hopefully maybe someday we'll share. We'll share, Brothers of the Leaf. We'll share maybe some beverages and a smoke and talk life, talk hobby, and that sort of thing. But yeah, we do have that in common, and that's why they call it Brothers of the Leaf. But I got to give my wife in telling that's got to give her a little credit for kind of. Being the influence there for me. How for you? How I know this. Everyone's gonna be like, I thought this was a hobby show. Why are they talking cigars? But how did you get into cigar smoking?
Let me see. I think a big part of it is so I don't drink, and a big part of the reason why I don't drink is because my father died at a very early age from cirrhosis of the liver. He was an active alcoholic, just about his entire life. So I just kind of chalked it up to like, okay, I'm not drinking. Like I don't, just he kind of ruined it for me. Let's put it that way. And so I kind of need a vice. We all have our vices, and after stumbling upon cigars in my 20s, I just kind of one of those things, I think, that it took on a life of its own, you started out with the mild cigars, then before you know it, I'm kind of moving up to the medium flavored, maybe, I'm tasting the different notes and flavors and figuring out what I like, I love a good, a cigar's got like a really good coffee note. It's got that kind of coffeeness to it, or like a little bit of nuttiness. I like the wood, so there's different blends, not blends, but there's different flavors that I really like. And but yeah, so I think, just to answer your question, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like I really don't have any other vices. So cigars, my motorcycle, it's just one of those things, and I work hard like we all do. I don't do cards full time, so it's like I work hard, and when I come home, I want to be able to have a cigar. When I'm on my motorcycle, I ride a Harley. So when I'm on my motorcycle, I have a cigar in my mouth while I'm riding most of the time. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Sorry, but, sorry about your dad. But like you said, he sort of, you learn from that to that, drinking wasn't going to be your thing. For those listening, myself and Rob's cigar podcast will debut in August. I'm just kidding. But
listen, cigars and cards, CNC.
Yeah, I like this. It's got a nice ring to it. Let's
and we have, and we share a cigar once a week, on air while discussing cards, and
I like it.
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group, or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
Sports Card Nation is back with Rob Girard.
One of my biggest pet peeves, I remember I bought like a lot of cards from someone, and it came in reeking like cigarette smoke. I mean, like my room, it stunk up my room, and I'm like, oh my God, that's one thing I never do. Never smoke around my cards. I mean, my cards have never even, my cards don't even know what a cigar is. They're my babies. So but yeah, it's. Let me just say, by the way, congratulations on picking up that recent Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, well, thank you, Rob. I know we even talked a little bit off the air when I was kind of on the hunt, And speaking of on the hunt, I heard you say something, and I don't think a lot of content creators talk about when you're looking for a certain car. We're going to talk about a couple of your big acquisitions. You're the guest, not me today anyway. So when you're looking for that card, though, we've all, if you're in the hobby, we've all had that moment. And it doesn't matter the price level; that's insignificant. And when you're looking for it, and you kind of find it, and it's that chase, right? That hunt. And you've used that term. I've used that term, and I've heard people say it's not a hunt, man. If you're a real hunter, it's. But I beg to differ. There's an adrenaline rush that goes along with it, probably very similar to an actual hunter when he's in his his or her tree stand, waiting for whatever season it is, and the same thing with cards. And I really got serious with that, the 48, 49 leaf Jackie. I've always wanted it, but I really kind of knuckled down the last year and started to really look, and they're out there, but I had some parameters. I knew I could only afford it in a lower grade, but I wanted to try to get it crease free. I wasn't super concerned with the corners as long as they were fairly presentable. No creases, kind of centered, lower grade, and so there's Jackies out there. But when you have some of those parameters, you know how this goes. You eliminate a certain percentage right off the bat with your qualifications. So just because I had it on my saved searches on eBay, so every day I get hey, new listings, check them out. It wouldn't check all the boxes, and so it's that chase, right? And then I'm not going to bore everybody. I did that Hobby Quick Hits about the acquisition of the card. People could listen if they want to hear more specifics. But finally, when you get close, and then you're in sort of that, tit for tat negotiations, and then you get it. I mean, it's. I'm not a hunter, but I got some of that adrenaline. And am I going to get it? Is this one going to fall through the cracks? Should I buy it now? Should I make an offer? If I make an offer, someone comes in and just buys it now, I lose. All those things, right? The decisions that go through your head. It is kind of like similar to a hunt. I've heard you say it. I've heard other people. I've used that term, and that's fun, And then you got to pay for it, and then that is not as fun to pay for, but it's fun. It's fun to finally get it and have it. And someone asked me, "Will that change, my approach now that I have it?" And it really won't, Rob. It's just I'm kind of got a spending freeze until the National here, so I have some money to buy some stuff there. And that was sort of my plan too, Rob. Was if I didn't get it before the National, that was sort of like my deadline. Like you're gonna have to leave the National with it. I'm almost glad I got it before. It's almost like a relief that I can go to the National and not have like that weight on my back. I know that sounds weird. Someone says it's just a card. What are you talking about, man? But I think people who are in the hobby will kind of get that gist. But go ahead.
Yeah,
Gonna say.
and the people that would say that to you are people that are not in the hobby, which is fine. I get it, because like it's weird, because even though we're into collectibles to an extent, when people freak out over Pokemon cards, I'm like, I don't fully get it, but I guess I get it. So imagine someone that doesn't collect cards at all. I mean, they're not going to understand that. We might as well be speaking French to them, but that Jackie card, that's a huge card, because, you look at it like, and I'm comparing it to a recent pickup that I mean, everything you said, I'm like right there with you, like eye to eye, I see you, because I was after a monster card myself recently, and my deadline was the end of this calendar year. And then about a month and a half ago, I said, you know what? No. My deadline is National. I need to leave National with that card. That's going to be my best way. That's going to be my best opportunity to get that card. And I was actually able to get it about 2 weeks ago. So that's, so now I'm almost looking at National like I just gained an extra life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, holy crap. Like, okay, I could actually go into National with kind of an open game plan. Now, obviously I don't have the funds or the inventory that I would have beforehand, but my end goal is already accomplished. I already got my goal. You already got your Jackie. So even if you don't have the funds or the inventory you had before, you know what? You're still going there with an open opportunity. But like your Jackie, right? So let me just throw some numbers at you here. And these are some numbers you might already know. But so that Jackie you got, right? 1948 Leaf, Jackie Robinson, one of the most iconic cards of all time. So I'm just going to throw this out there. A PSA 9 in that is around $2.5 million value, right? A PSA 9, $2.5 million. So you got that exact card just in a lower grade, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to throw this at you, okay? So yours is what, an SGC 1.5?
Yep.
Okay,
correct.
so right now, currently, a PSA 1.5, you know what the pop on that is? It's a pop 55.
Yeah.
A pop
No,
55.
I know. Yeah, I knew
man.
it was. I knew it was under three figures, Rob. I wasn't sure how far under, or where, but I knew it was probably close to that. Yeah, I mean, it's like you said. And I'm not just saying this because I have it now. I said this when I was trying to get it. It's forget that being a Jackie Robinson fan, which I am. This is just an iconic hobby card, no matter who you are. For me, it just had even that more significance. And people always ask me, Rob, is like, being a Jackie fan from when you were a kid in Brooklyn, how did you not have it yet? And I've told this story. I've had like 2 or 3 opportunities to buy it from setting up at shows, and I always kind of punted. I was like, I'll just get it another time. I'm spending my money here, or I'm buying this collection. And so I always kind of kicked the can down the road, thinking the can would always be there to not kick the next time. And then that trajectory, that thing shot through. And when when that happened, I realized too late. I'm like, now it's going to cost me, 300% more than when, and it kept going up. It's one of those cards, the deal, no matter what's going on in macroeconomics, in real world financials or hobby financials, it's almost sort of, recession proof, if you will, or financial proof. Now it has dropped a little bit, especially on the lower grades, but
everything's dropped. There isn't a thing.
Yeah, that's true.
52 mantles have dropped. So
yeah. So, but very in comparison to, I don't want to say a regular card or whatever that means, but something not as iconic. Let me phrase it that way. The drop is less significant in that case, and that was the thing. I think right now we see a sort of a hobby reset, a softening of the market. That's how this goes. This is cyclic, and things are going to go up again. I just knew like this was the year, like you with the LeBron. Like it's got to be done this year because someone even asked me, could have you waited? It might have been cheaper if you waited till the National. It might have. I don't know. Who's to say, right? But cheaper what? $300-$400
exactly, not by much.
For a card like that, I'm not going to take the chance of not getting it. And so that was my answer, to that person's question. And like you said, it's a great point by you too. Getting it before the National, in both our cases with your LeBron, we can kind of go into the National sort of with an open, you said it perfectly, an open sort of game plan. Hey, I like these 5 or 6 cards. If I see a deal on them, I like to get 2 of the 6, 3 of the 6 when I leave, but I'm under no pressure to do so. If the deal's not there or it doesn't work out, I still have the target. You initially started with an end of year deadline, and you moved it up. You shattered both of those benchmarks. My deadline was the National. I beat that by a few months. So, it's going to be fun. Speaking of National, let's pivot right into that. Last year, people, for as long as I've been in the hobby, Rob, I've only been to 3, believe it or not. This will be 4 this year. Last year, you said on the show was your first. I know you said it on your show, but for those that didn't catch that episode, thoughts of last year, Chicago, your first National. Like I always tell people before you answer, whatever you think in your mind and people are going to tell you what it's like, when you get in there, it's going to be beyond that. It's going to, whatever you envision. Same thing with my first one. Everyone was telling me John this and John that, and and I thought I was prepared. And then you get in there and it's like, It's like Wonkaville. It's just like, oh my God, this is crazy. But I mean, last year being your first, kind of your synopsis there.
Yeah, man. So last year, Chicago, First National, Rosemont, Illinois, nothing could have prepared me for what National was going to be. It was almost like that Mike Tyson line, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. Walking into National, I got punched in the mouth, and it was like, oh my God, this is like my plan went out the window. I was picking up cards I had no business picking up. I was it's one of those things where I went there and I immediately remembered what my true love was, and my true love was vintage. And if you are a vintage guy, if you are a vintage person, if you're even curious about vintage, I mean, National is going to be absolute. It's Disney World for you. There's just so much vintage there. And I don't want to scare away like younger collectors or whatever and think that like there's no modern. No, trust me, there's plenty of modern. There's just endless amounts of modern. So I was there for 3 full days last year and I did not get to see every booth. Think about that. I did not get to see every table and I was there for 3 full days.
Yeah, it's crazy. I always say, you got to take one day to meet everyone in the hobby you're friends with, whether it's for the first time or additional times. It's almost one day is just walking around, hey man, chopping up the hobby, chopping up life. That's one day alone. And then, like you said, I don't know how many days. I guess it depends how meticulous you are looking at cases, but you need numerous days if you want to see everything. And I can tell you, in the 3 I've went to, Rob, I'm sure I didn't see every table. I just think it's you think you might have, but I think it's almost impossible.
Someone's at my door. I've got to get that. Be right back.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s and Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mans, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for all. Let's grow the hobby we love together. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's return to the show.
I'm curious with your going to National this year, are you going to be bringing Jackie with you?
Well, here's the thing. So it's got the old SGC holder. SGC, which is actually one of my sponsors of this show, said, hey, we're going to, they saw the post. I talked to them here and there, and they're like, hey, that needs to be in the new tux. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. So they're going to do it, no charge to me, but they want me to send it. And I'm like, I'm so nervous, man. I'm going to sound like a little kid here, but like, I waited all these years to get it, and you hear all these horror stories about stuff getting lost. This is right up your alley about stuff getting lost in the mail. You lost a whole order got lost on you. If I'm,
it did, yeah.
I'm thinking of your story. I'm thinking of other people. Hey, this card never made it to its destination, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna get this, pay this kind of money, ship it to get a new holder. And what happens? God, Murphy's like, God forbid, right? And I'm like, so I'm really debating, and I'm like, I'm trying to tell them, like, can I bring it? And they're like, well, we don't know if we're actually going to be like doing on-site subs. And I almost want to just say, well, can I just give it to you? You travel back with it and then send it back to me. Like I'm sort of eliminating half the travel. You know what I mean? As far as by a mail carrier or shipping service.
Absolutely. And so it's your card. I would never tell anyone what to do with their card. I know if it was me, I've learned a couple things along the way. If it was me, what I would do is I would go to FedEx and I would pay the $120 or whatever it costs to overnight it. Okay, because what happens when they overnight it is, I believe they put insurance on it for you, and then also they put a little mini GPS on it, or they put a little mini tracker on there. They slap it to the side of the package so that there's always a GPS tracker on it. So if you bring it to your FedEx at 5 p.m. at night, it'll be dropped off at their doorstep by 7 a.m. the next day. So it gets to them within 12 hours. It'll get down to Florida, Boca Raton, SGC. I mean, the thing is, the longest it'll take is going to be with SGC putting it in a reholder. And I've had them rehold their card for me. And I think it took maybe 3 weeks, from door to door.
They told me, like, I've talked to them on the phone. I've talked to Brian. I'll just people could probably do a legwork of the specific, but Brian said once he make it attention to him, it'll get delivered to his desk. He'll have it rehold. He said it should be no more than 2 to 3 days with a card like that. They'll kind of expedite it. Being a sponsor of the show, if you will, I know that's some might listen and say, hey, what that ain't fair, but I'm being honest, right? We talked about being genuine and honest. There's a perfect example, right? And so, I'm probably gonna. What you said is probably the way I'm gonna go, Rob. Probably do it on a Monday. That way, it's not sitting on a weekend, sort of, waiting to be picked up. Do it on a Monday. They'll get it, like you said, Tuesday. Do what they got to do. Maybe ship it back on a Monday, and I'll have it hopefully on a Tuesday or Wednesday. But I'll tell you what, I'll be on pins and needles for that whole whatever long that process takes. I mean,
I'll tell you, that Jackie is a beautiful Jackie, man. I mean, like you said, it's well centered. There's no noticeable creases. There's no stains on the front. I mean, corners are a little
for those that watch the
but
video. I'll put it up there.
Oh my God, look at that. That's a beautiful card, man. And I tell you, a top 5 iconic card, baseball card, but maybe even ever. When you think about the most iconic cards of all time, right? Like I think about, obviously 52 Mantle, obviously an 86 Jordan. And then from there, really after spots 1 and 2, it's almost like ranking the top NBA players of all time. It's like I think most people would say, okay, Jordan's 1, LeBron is 2. After that, it's kind of a crapshoot of a ton of different players can fill out that next 5. So after that Mickey Mantle card, after the Jordan card, I think that there's a really good argument to place Jackie Robinson card next.
Yeah, I mean, it's number 1 on my list, but I'm biased. But no, you're right. Everyone will say the Honus Wagner, which is a great card, iconic too, but there's not a lot of them. You know what I mean? There's only, in the sense, 10 to 20 of them potentially. So it's hard to. It's iconic in the fact that it's like just super, super rare.
But as far as like notoriety, noticeability, being easily recognized, that Jackie Robinson. I mean, to me, it's right up there with a 57 Bill Russell. Probably even more recognizable than the Bill Russell rookie or the Wilt Chamberlain rookie that I have over my shoulder right there.
Yeah, I see that.
But yeah, man, I mean, incredible card, man. And that's what's so unbelievable about this hobby, right? Is that we can collect things. We can collect these small pieces of cardboard that are graded, that are encapsulated, and they not only bring us joy, they bring us the kind of joy that very few things in life can bring us. Which sounds crazy, right? It sounds insane. But like other
people
than
in the hobby, not the people in the hobby. People in the hobby are like nodding their heads listening to this.
Other than other than talking about our children or like our first love, I mean, getting those kind of Grail cards.
I'm going to put the Jackie ahead of my first love because it's not my wife. But now if we throw my wife in there, well, she's not in the room, so
your fourth love, which is your wife. Yep. But then when you factor in on top of that it's also an investment.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's almost just like the icing on the cake because I'll speak for myself. The reason why I collect is not for investment purposes because, and I think that's the important part of the equation. Like, that's why you're supposed to buy what you love, because if all cards went to zero tomorrow, we'd be stuck with our cards. So you want to make sure that the cards that you have, to an extent, you love. But the icing on the cake is, like, we have the cards we love, but also if we're lucky, they retain their value. And if we're extra lucky, we can make money and it's an investment. Holy crap. Mind blown.
It's fun. It's funny you say this, and I don't want to keep talking about the Jackie, as great as it is, but I have a separate business account, which I started when I was 15 years old, when I did my first card show as a 15-year-old. I made $1,500 in 1987, which was a lot more money then than it is now. And I was raised by my grandparents and had this big bulge in my pocket, money. And my grandma said, how'd you do today, Johnny? And I'm like, I think I made, I was so young, I couldn't say 1,500. I didn't even know like how to do.
You said $1,500.
Yeah. And she goes, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, no, that's what I got. She goes, this is New York. Like, you can't walk around with that in your pocket. You got to start a bank account. You got to put the money in there. And so thus my business account was born. And so I've had it since I'm 15. So, when we were getting married, my wife, who knew about the business account at that time, she was my fiance, said, what are you doing with your business account? And I'm like, what do you mean, what am I doing with my business account? The same thing I've done for like the last 13 years. Like, she, and she was a little like, is that like an escape plan, And I'm like, no, believe me, you'll thank me about this business account, because anything I buy hobby or cards wise will not come out of the joint account. You won't even know what I'm spending. You'll appreciate that. And so when it was time to pay for this Jackie, she doesn't know. She knows very little about cards, and she supports me, but you can hold two cards in front of her and tell her pick the better one, and she's got only a 50% chance of getting it right. So but it's a big purchase. So I wanted to keep her in the loop. She might have to sign for it, all yada yada yada. So I told her about it, and she goes, what did that cost? And I told her. She goes, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And like you said, I tried to explain to her, that money could sit in a business account, which is fine, or it's something that means that much. And she knows what it means to me. So she was appreciative of that fact. But I had to, like, to you, I don't have to explain this for people in the hobby, but I had to explain to her that at any point where if push came to shove or emergency or whatever the case may be, I could realistically just sell that and get the money back, if, like you said, and potentially, depending on what's going on in the market, even more than what I paid for it. So even though I'm spending the money, it's really just taken a different form. It's still money and frankly, I rather hold that than the money in my hand at the moment for what that card means to me. So when I explained it to her like that, Rob, it kind of softened the blow. And then I said to her, like, now you see why I told you, 23 years ago, you're going to appreciate that business account. And she goes, yeah, I guess you were right. Well, she doesn't like to tell me a lot. So to get it right there, I'll take it. But, it's just a funny story there with that card. But you're right. It's just another form. If I wanted to resell it, which I don't, but you can sort of reverse the transaction, so to speak. So time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but we'll be back with Rob right after that.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
Go!
We are back.
Well, let's talk about, you just got a LeBron, and then not much, I was listening to that, seeing that, and then you follow that with a Goody Babe Ruth on top of that. I'm like, holy smokes. Talk a little bit about those two cards. I mean, obviously, for those, check Rob's show out. He goes in depth on that, but, for this show here, for those listening to this show, kind of talk about that acquisition, which is your Grail card, as you said.
Yeah, man. Thank you. So definitely my podcast, Sports Card Therapist. I also do a joint podcast each week with Amel Sarfani from the Slab Talk. It's called The Bounce. So we talk about all that and more on there. And yeah, so the big boy that I got was this LeBron card. And if you're watching on YouTube, I will show it. Yeah, so it's the 2003 LeBron Ultimate Collection Auto vertical out of 250. I mean, this thing is, I have no business owning a card like this. I really don't, and I had to liquidate most of my collection in order to get that. I probably liquidated about 2/3 of my collection in order to acquire this, and I was able to do that through being able to trade up, but also have a lot of cash. And that's something that I've taken a lot of pride in doing these last couple of years since being back in the hobby, is trading up, right? Because when I came back in the hobby, I bought a lot of stuff that I thought I wanted, but then as I continued to become more educated about what was going on with the hobby, and where just really the direction I wanted to go, it's like I had a lot of cards that I didn't really want anymore. I didn't have any use for. For me, when it comes to my collection, whether if it's my PC and sometimes my PC, but really my inventory, is that cards can be like groceries. Sometimes cards just kind of go stale after a while. And I'm like, what? I think I'm ready to move this. I've been here. I bought the t-shirt kind of mentality. I'm going to move on. I'm going to try to move this thing. So, I've really been able to, if I see a card that I'm interested in, right? Say I see a card for $3,000. I'm like, you know what? I have a bunch of $1,000 cards. I have a bunch of cards that are valued at $1,000. I'm going to send this guy a picture or pictures of all my cards, all my $1,000 cards. And I'm going to ask him, hey, you interested in trading? Also I can add some cash on top of that. So, I've found people in the hobby that, really don't mind trading down. So because, it's hard once you start getting up around cards around 5K or more, those are hard cards to move sometimes. So, but I will gladly take those cards, and I will gladly even pay a premium if I have to. So if a card is worth 5K, I have no problem paying a 10 or 15% premium on it if someone's letting me trade up. Meaning, if a card is worth 5K, I have no problem giving him 4K in cards plus maybe 1,500 cash. So I'm overpaying $500 for that card. But what I'm doing though is I'm leveling up and I'm consolidating. So that's kind of been what my game plan has been. Because so a card like this, LeBron, how am I going to come up with cash for that? I mean, I know maybe there are some people that have been in the hobby forever and they ended up with, $500,000 collections overnight basically, but I'm not someone that did that. So in order to acquire a card like this, right, typically they only go up for auction on Golden, ComC, PWCC.
And listen, but if you bought it at one of those sites, where I'm going, you're going to pay, speaking about 10, 15, we're going to pay that in the buyer's premium. That's going to be all cash. So trading up and doing that is it hurts a lot less than that buyer's premium on an auction house site.
Buyer's premium, you're paying taxes, you're paying insurance for it to be shipped. I mean, it's just insane, right? So yeah, in order to get a card like this, you better have 70 to 90K in a bank account that as soon as you win that bid, boom, they're going to hit your card and take that 70 to 90K out. I don't know about you. I mean, I have a good career, but I don't have 70 to 90K in the bank for cards.
No, well, like I said, I have that business account. I'll be honest, there's not that kind of money in there, especially now too. So
Exactly. So what I did was at the beginning of this year, I put it out there and I said, okay, I'm looking to acquire $100,000 card this year. That was my goal. I want to find a 6-figure card, a $100,000 card. And I had some people in the hobby say, you know what? You should focus on a specific card rather than just the amount. And I said, no, you're right. Great point. And I'm not saying I wasn't going to be going there anyways, but absolutely. So I settled on the LeBron. I knew it was numbered out at 250. These things are very rare. I truly believe that. And I've had a couple people in the hobby that really know their stuff, kind of agree that if there was going to be another LeBron card that could possibly
7
hit
figures.
$500,000 to $1 million one day, what card would it be? Like outside of like the exquisite RPA, right? The exquisite RPAs, those are already over $1 million, the LeBrons. But if there was going to be a second card right now in that 100K range now that could maybe hit that $1 million, what would it be? I had numerous people tell me this card. So for investment purposes, plus the fact I love LeBron, I said, you know what, that's a card I'm going to go after. And my whole plan was to cash out at National. My whole plan was to mark down my prices to like 80% comps, liquidate everything, hopefully have between 60 and 90K in my pocket at National, and then walk the National floor trying to hunt down this card. Like basically try to find a needle in a haystack at National. That was going to be my goal.
Yeah.
But I woke up one morning. So rewind, about a month and a half ago, I said, you know what? This card is so freaking rare. It's only numbered out at 250. There's only 2 of them available on eBay. One of them, the asking price is $1 million or best offer, and the other one is $500,000 or best offer. I'm like getting 0 leads on this card. I need to tell people what this 100K card is that I want. So I made the announcement on my podcast, and people started hitting me up. Like immediately, it was almost like like a tip line, like for a fugitive, like like the FBI tip line. Like my phone started.
Hey, we seen him here. He's at the 7-Eleven on 41st Street.
Exactly. So long story short, I wake up one morning about a month ago, and someone messaged me and they said, "Hey, there's someone in this Facebook group that just posted that card. They're looking to move it, and they posted a cash price and a trade value price on it." And I go, holy crap. So I immediately contacted the person. It took me about 72 hours to close the deal too, because I was card heavy. I wasn't cash heavy. So I had to liquidate. The guy changed his mind a couple times about which cards he wanted. It's just like one of these things where it was like, I had it, and then he was like, then he kind of backed out of the deal. Then I felt like I had it, and then he was like, no. And I was like, oh my God, it was like this thing where, and then finally I was able to, pull the trigger on it. And,
the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. And like you said, you going into National, you won't have sort of that. I'll use the word weight. I might be a little over dramatic there, but sort of that, at least on your mind, if you know.
Are you kidding? That you're not being dramatic at all.
Yeah.
Like think about it. If your goal at National was to get that Jackie Robinson card, and you were going there with cards and a little bit of cash in hand, it probably wouldn't matter who wanted to meet you and say hi to you and meet you in person. Like you'd be half checked out of every conversation you were having, because you'd be like, okay, every second spent here BSing with Rob in person is a second I can be out on that floor trying to search down this Jackie. So I think that it turns National, and it's so weird how you and I were kind of on that same mission of like hunting our Grail card and saying, okay, National is the deadline. And the fact that the card gods, it seemed like were like, John,
parallel universe.
Like John, Rob, relax. I'm going to put this card in your life now. Pull the trigger. John, you're not going to punt. You're going to go for it on fourth down. It's 4th and goal. I'm not going to let you kick a field goal here. You're going for it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. And then you follow that up and you you get a Goudy Babe Ruth a few weeks.
Oh, yeah, let me pull this bad boy out. So, talk about, and I tell you, so like 3 Grail cards in a matter of 3 weeks for me, and it's one of these things where I just got into such the zone these last like 2 months of just like downsizing, consolidating, level up. Like, and I know those terms are like really overused in this hobby, but for me, that's kind of what it came to. So the third card that I got, which is a Grail card for me, is a 1982 Wrestling All-Stars Hulk Hogan autographed, authenticated by Beckett. Now, this card is extremely rare. There's no known amount of what the print run is, but I get but I don't know if you know David Peck. He's like highly respected.
Yep.
So David Peck, he knows one of the guys that worked at this warehouse back in like 81 when this was printed, and they said that their best guess is that there's probably about 1,500 of these that exist. So 1,500 of these that exist, right? So I had an 82 All-Star Hulk Hogan card that got lost in that PSA package that I sent out a few months ago. So I said, you know what? I set up at that Probstein show with Rick Probstein. I set up with him. I was Probstein. I've been on my show a few times. I ended up setting up with a few guys. I don't know if you're familiar with like Jay from Mojo Sports, Santiago Autograph, Santiago Sports.
Tyler.
So I set up with all those guys at Probstein, and I said, you know what? I saw this card on eBay just sitting there, but the guy was asking a lot of money for it. He was asking like $5,000 for it or something. And I said, if I have a big show today at Probstein show, I'm going to pull the trigger on this Hulk Hogan. I don't care. And this was about 3 weeks ago. So I had a pretty good show. I think I probably did about 8 to 10K in sales. And I was like, I'm pulling the trigger on this freaking Hulk Hogan card, dude. So I got that Hulk Hogan card. About a week and a half later, the LeBron deal came through. And then just last week, one of my guy who's becoming a close friend in this hobby, Dave, he's Extraordinary Cards on Instagram. He's got just a ton of high-end cards. He posts this, and I'm like, I need this. Look at this card. Look how centered that is.
It's
and,
nice.
and just like you, no creases, no stains. Really, the biggest knock on them are the corners. And I think being a vintage guy like myself, like I'll take rounded corners all day. Give me good centering.
We're on the same page there, Rob. I can live with the card. If you can get a card like that, or really any vintage card, no creases, centered, good color, and the corners are the worst thing you can say. I'll no paper loss. I'll take it. I know centering's a big thing, but paper loss is a whole nother show. And when you can get them in that kind of condition, you gotta, like you said, you gotta pull the trigger and get it done.
You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Are you a new sports cards collector or someone returning to the hobby? Maybe you're just looking for a friendly, trustworthy hobby community to hang out with and enjoy collecting. Midwest Box Breaks has been bringing collectors together for many years with affordable breaks, helpful threads, and a Discord group packed with generous people who genuinely care about the hobby and other collectors. Check out the breaks at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. Also, find us on Twitter at MidwestBoxBreaks.
Hey folks, John here. Just wanted to remind you, use the discount code MBB10 for 10% off your first order at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. Welcome back to Sports Card Nation. Here's more with Rob Girard, sports card therapist. Going back to the LeBron, I mean, that I agree with you. I think that's going to be a card years down the line that's going to pay dividends if that's what you choose to do. Do you have sort of a game plan in your mind other than it's not for sale right now? Have you think that far ahead, or you just like we'll cross that bridge when we come to it?
Well, yeah, I tell you what, man. So, since getting back in the hobby, I've become, pretty close friends with Chris and Josh from Card Ladder, right? I mean, love them or hate them. They're just, to me, in my opinion, they've been incredible guys. They've been, I don't know if I'd call them mentors, but they, let me tell you, I reach out to them once a week with a question about something.
Yeah.
They come on my show monthly now, the guys from Card Ladder, and they have a monthly spot on my show. And so looking at what Josh Johnson did, and me telling this story about what he's done, this is public knowledge. He's talked about it on plenty of shows. He's talked about it on my show, so I'm not spilling any secrets here about him. So he bought a LeBron Exquisite RPA like 2.5 years ago, right before the boom. And I think he paid $140K for it, right? He said, hands down, he said that was like almost 10x the most he had ever paid for a card. And just like me with this LeBron, this is probably 4x the most I've ever paid for a card. So it's this is territory I'm not used to, right? But what Josh Johnson did, right before the boom, bought this exquisite RPA LeBron for $140K. About exactly 2 years later, he sold it for $1.3 million.
Yeah,
now,
not bad ROI if you get it.
Not bad. So listen, and these are guys that like you and I conversate with, right? Like these are just guys in the hobby that are really just like you and me, but have been smart with their purchases, right? So I'm not blinded enough to think I'm going to get that kind of ROI on this card, right? Especially that soon. But he was definitely one of the guys that I talked to before making this purchase. And he was one of the guys that was like, yeah, I'm a believer in that Ultimate Collection card for sure. That's a card I believe in. Absolutely. So watching what he did and knowing what a boom could look like if it ever comes back again, which I think it would probably come back again at some point, right? Between the Ken Golden Netflix documentary, between Fanatics taking over, who knows?
There's a new show. I don't know if you heard this. John Cena is going to be doing a collectible show.
Get out of here. I did not hear that.
Yeah.
Oh,
don't feel bad. It was just announced earlier today. So it's not like it's old news. So I don't know all the details, but it's going to be on major TV, and it's going to be where he kind of again, I'm just reading from what I read. He's going to be traveling kind of the country to see cool items and cool collectibles and cool cards. And John, just as well as I do, John Cena is a big name to be attached to a collectibles show. With all due respect to Ken,
absolutely,
John Cena trumps him there as far as notoriety. So between Ken Golden, like you said, now John Cena, who knows what else is coming down,
and who knows what's going to happen at Fanatics, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Fanatics has a lot of smart people in their corner.
They do,
and I think that they are not in it for the hobby to stay the same. When I hear, guys like Josh Luber or whoever it is that is the talking head for Fanatics at the moment, whenever I hear them say, we want to see the hobby grow 10x, that's a big number. That's a big number. That's a really big number. So, what I think about, and then I have guys that like I've met at shows, right? I have like these old timers. There's this guy, his name is Vintage Chuck. And I go up to Vintage Chuck's case, and he's got like 5 cases. They're all just like really old cards. They're spread out everywhere. There's no rhyme or reason to how they're laid out, but his case is packed with stuff like this, right? Stuff like the Babe Ruth Gowdy, stuff like your Jackie Robinson 48 leaf, and he said to me, he's like, listen, Rob, when I got into this hobby, I realized one thing. I can nickel and dime for $500 cards, and I can sell it for a $50 profit, or I can just jump in the deep end, take a bigger risk, but sell a $15,000 card, but probably make $4K off it. He's like, I would much rather do that. He's like, and that's kind of what I've chosen to do. So I knew before getting this LeBron, I knew, like, looking around my office and my card room, I'm like, I know I have probably 100K in cards here. Now it's just about figuring out how to consolidate it, because the guy that has this LeBron rookie auto isn't going to take my 100K in crap cards for this. He's just not going to take it.
Yeah.
But if I put in the legwork and I combined those $1,000 cards, right? Those $1,000 cards, and I figure out a way to turn that into $1,000 card. If I do that 10 times, now I have $10,000 cards. If I could turn those 10 cards into a single 10K card, now we're cooking with fish grease, right? Now, this guy that had this LeBron card, now he might take 5 10K cards that equal 50K. He might take that plus cash. So it's just about putting in the work to consolidate, to level up, and everyone's idea of leveling up looks different. I know for me, my idea of leveling up consists of acquiring cards that I consider to be personal grails and also acquire cards that probably have the biggest price tag on them. Because I know those big cards, especially if they're liquid cards, like one of the big cards I got, to give you an example, so about a month and a half ago, I was able to trade up into a $15,000 card. That was a Tom Brady Bowman Chrome PSA 10 rookie, right? Gorgeous card, PSA 10. I looked at it like, wow, you know what? 6 months ago, this card was at $28K. So I'm going to hold this for National. Chances are football is going to be heating up at National, and chances are I'll probably be able to sell this for like $23K, and I'm going to pay $15 for it now. But you know what? When it came time to get this LeBron, the guy I got it from, he only wanted 2 cards of mine. I had to come up with the rest cash.
Yeah.
You know what he wanted? He wanted that Tom Brady card at current comps. So basically what I paid for it, I'm like, damn. I'm like, I know I'm going to make money off this if I just hold it for a couple months. Nope. He wanted that now. And you know what else he wanted? He wanted the biggest Grail card that I had, which was a 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle.
Yep. Remember he said that. Yep.
And that was a hard pill to swallow. I had to look the man in the mirror and say, how much do you want that LeBron? Because this Mickey Mantle card is your favorite card you own right now. How much do you want this LeBron?
Yeah, now it gives you a new chase to kind of replace it.
It does. It absolutely does. If I have a top 5
and
card,
let's be honest, it's an iconic card in its own right, Rob, but there's more of those than the LeBron. As crazy as that is to say with an iconic vintage card, it's a fact. So it's not going to be easy and that's going to be half the fun, right? Is the challenge of it. But it'll be, I think, easier to acquire that again than to get LeBron for the first time, which you've done. So I'm sure you thought along the same lines.
100%. And it's crazy you say that, okay? It's crazy that you even bring up the pop report when it comes to that 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle. You know why? Because you know how many PSA 3 51 Bowman Mickey Mantles there are? Exactly 250 on the pop report. Exactly. Yep. So when you just PSA 3.
And that's, I was going to say, Rob, that's just the threes. I mean, there are obviously other graded higher and lower.
Yep.
The total. So you don't have
SGC.
Yep. You could get if you want to get a 2. If you wanted to go 4, if you wanted to replace the 3 exactly. I mean, you've got more options. Where with the LeBron, there's only 249. Other ones out there, and like you said, you don't see them that often. So it is tough just because of what it is. But when you sort of do the scales, right? What tips the scales, and you do sort of the crunching in your head, you have to pull the trigger, and you can always get that Mantle again, where that LeBron, even if you tried to get a second one. Let's put it this way. If we were trying to get another LeBron or replace the Mantle, one of those tasks will be a lot easier than the other one. So, and that's how you got to sort of look at it. And I think it's going to, and I agree with the pundits, if you will. I think that LeBron years from now might be making news with that, much like Josh Johnson did. I don't want to jinx nothing, but like you said, crush it. Yep, knock on wood, whatever your superstition is. But you ain't gonna lose. I don't think this definitely shouldn't be losing proposition too. I mean, you got LeBron, who's already in, the back nine of his career. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So, I mean, it's not like it's a young player where, God forbid it blows out his knee or something like that. And we see what these Bowman Chrome colored autos go for, these unproven guys, and people are giving up, proven players, and something I wouldn't personally do. But again, hobby the way. So, but I think you're not going to regret it. I know you missed the mantle for now. We'll use the two words, right? For now. And it gives you another target on the list.
Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but Sports Card Nation will be right back after that.
Like the athletes we admire, the Sports Card Shop is changing the game. We're not launching threes, bombing drives, or hitting dingers, but we have built a unique gathering spot for all collectors to trade cards, talk sports, play games, and watch their favorite athletes on the big screens. Yes, we've partnered with Panini, Upper Deck, Leaf, Topps, Fanatics, Pokemon, and others to bring you all the latest in sealed wax and singles. But the Sports Card Shop in New Buffalo, Michigan is much, much more. Our recent expansion brings collectible sneakers, Hot Wheels, and more sports and entertainment memorabilia into the mix. Our new Collector's Cave game room is the perfect place to throw a rip party, bring friends, rip packs, trade cards, play billiards, ping pong, shuffleboard, classic arcade, and Xbox games, all while watching your favorite sport on TV. Visit us at thesportscardshop.com. Follow us on social @_sportscardshop, or better yet, visit us in person to learn about special events, party packages, new products, and everything we're doing for you. The Sports Card Shop, connecting people, sports, and the hobby around the world.
We are back.
Coming down the home stretch here, going into the National here, when this show airs, we're actually going to be 38 days away. I don't want you to necessarily let the cat out of the bag, but like, what do you have sort of? I kind of go into the National myself, Rob, with sort of 4 to 6 cards I'd like to acquire, and I'd like to get, knowing I'm probably not going to get all of them, but like to get, half of them, 33% of them, 2 to 3. What's your approach? Last year was your first. I'm sure you learned some stuff. You've learned some stuff, obviously, outside the Nationals, not like the Nationals. What's your approach? I don't want you to give away the secret sauce necessarily here, but, what's your kind of game plan going into your second National? Do you have like a hit list, or you kind of just going in like, hey, if I see something and it, tickles my fancy, so to speak, moves my meter, and I can get a good deal, what are you doing?
Yeah, man. So there's definitely no secret sauce here. I think, my goal is to continue to consolidate what I have. And in all reality, man, I look around my card room right now, and I probably have, I have a few thousand raw cards, if not more. I have a crap ton of, graded cards, but, and my display case right here, that none of this stuff is going anywhere. This is all just PC stuff, not worth probably a ton of money, but it's all stuff that's important to me. But yeah, I think if I could just whittle down everything and really just own like 5 cards and have a collection that's worth, over $100K, over $200K just in those like 5 cards, and then truly start over, I would love to do that. I would love to do that. I definitely still have a few bigger cards out there I would love to get. I would love to get a 57 Bill Russell rookie. I would love to get another 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle. I would love to get a 48 Leaf Jackie. Are you kidding me? I would love to complete.
Well, if you want to trade to LeBron, I'll do it.
You would do that, John? Oh, man.
But then I just have to go buy it.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
No, I know. Now that I've gotten a taste of Baby Ruth, I would love to maybe get the other 3 Gaudy Babe Ruths. So it's all about vintage. To me, it's like, I think what speaks to me the most is vintage. Like, I have some cool cards like this that I had just posted last night, right? So this, last week or whenever this airs, but it's the Tom Brady 2000 metal rookie. It's the Emerald version. Nice card.
Cool.
It's BGS 8.5. I think it's about 3K right now. But I mean, I would take a really nice vintage card over that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Just to me, the vintage just speaks to me.
It's funny, Robert. Like I said, I've done this for a long time, and I do modern stuff too. But I've always done vintage. But the last few years, I've really kind of ramped up more that way in terms of what I'm buying and acquiring. Even my show inventory, even stuff I buy that, let's say, isn't PC, but hey, I'm just going to price it and get it out in the cases. I've really leaned, heavier to the vintage side. When I go to a show as a consumer, just walking around, and I don't mean this as maybe as bad as it's going to sound, but you see all these cases with all the new stuff, and I collect some of that. No, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, but it just becomes like a big blur. It's sort of like every case starts to look the same or similar. It's the vintage stuff that I'm more apt to stop and look at what that person has in their vintage inventory. And I just think of the stories my dad told, of what he had, and it all got thrown away. All the stuff that's in landfills never to return again. And, when you think of the vintage stuff, forget the stuff that's in landfills, Robert. A lot of the stuff that people are buying that's not going to be on the market for sale for who knows how long or ever, So like that Jackie I bought, I mean, I have no intent to sell. It's not listed anywhere, So there's a lot of people like that. So I just look at that vintage through that lens, that there's just less of it. There's a lot in PCs that are not going to be on the market, and how much of it got thrown out, and destroyed. And when I think of all those things sort of combined, and being a little bit older, I'm 10 years older than you, I just have more of, I don't know if the respect is the right, but more of, like you say, nostalgia or appreciation. I respect all cards, but, I just knowing sort of the parameters of the landscape, I just really, it's, to me, I get more of a thrill or fun buying those vintage cards. I'm not talking even just Jackie, but just in general, rookie cards, graded rookies. That's my PC. Someone asked me, besides Jackie, what do you PC? And it's Hall of Fame graded rookies. So, when I went to Dallas, which was after the Jackie, and I really said tell myself to behave, but I got a decent deal on, a Jim Brown, SGC3, a Gretzky PSA 6, and a Montana 7. And I didn't, they were on my list as far as, my PC, but I didn't go in there saying I had to get them. Jim Brown was kind of the next card after the Jackie. I'm here in Syracuse. I'm originally from Brooklyn, but I'm in Syracuse, and arguably one of the greatest all-time football players. Not the nicest guy in the world, but we're not collecting nice guys all the time. But that was that kind of the next card down on the list, and so I got two of those cards from the same dealer. It was a pretty decent deal. So I didn't really go in there to spend that, but sometimes you know how this goes, right? A deal presents itself, and you're like, I got to do it, and I'll worry about it later on somehow. But it always works out. But I definitely, the freeze is on. I've turned off the faucet until the end of July in Atlantic City, and again, going in there just sort of, open minded. I'll have 4 to 6 cards, on a list in my head that I'm sort of would like to acquire, knowing probably not going to get all of them, but if you can pick off a couple, I'll consider that a good show. But I mean, listen, the deal. The National is going to be a great time regardless of what we get, just seeing people, getting to meet you probably for the first time as well. And so all that other stuff, right? The tagline of this show is the hobby is the people. And I think the national sort of epitomizes that as well. So, any closing thoughts here as we kind of wind down?
No, man, I just want to say thank you very much for having me on. Been a fan and a listener of your podcast for quite some time. And, I just love what you've done for the hobby and love what you've done as a content creator. And also, at the time of this dropping, you have already appeared on my show because I believe we're going to be – so, you're coming
Home
on
and
my
Away
show as
series.
Well. Home and Away series, absolutely, and that series has that episode has already aired, so definitely go check out Sports Card Therapist podcast. Shameless plug on my end, but
it's good timing because I always let my guests at the end, Rob, give out all your socials, websites, whatever you want those listening to where to find you and check out what you want. Go ahead, take your time, no time limit.
Yeah, no, definitely appreciate it. So on Instagram at Sports Card Therapist, that's the same name of my podcast because actually my day job, I am a licensed therapist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed alcohol and drug counselor. So that's what I do for a living. And so it just makes sense. I kind of mix in self-care and wellness with card collecting. Also, my other podcast that I do with Amil Sarfane from the Slab Talk, that is called The Bounce. We drop a new episode every week. So if you want to check us out, just type in The Bounce, The Slab Talk, and you will find us. And John, man, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.
Well, listen, thank you for coming on. Thank you for returning the favor on your great show, which I listen to as well. And, it was fun. We got talking about some Grail cards and some big acquisitions. There was questions I didn't get to. So if you're open to it, maybe after National, you come back on, or even before, we'll do this again, and maybe I'll get to a couple of those questions I didn't get to.
Love it, man. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Going to take a 30-second break to learn about our website, but after that, I'll come back with some closing thoughts.
Check out our website at www.sportscardnationpodcast.com for the new release schedule, our blog, all show episodes, and so much more.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Sports Card Nation. Thanks, everybody out there. Thanks, my guest, Rob Girard, Sports Card Therapist. Check out what he's doing. He talks about kind of leveling up on a show and kind of, trading up, two lesser cards to get one bigger one. And he's done a great job over the last year or two doing that, and can learn a lot listening to him. And, fun guy and a good guy, and glad he made time for the show. I was on his show last week, so if you don't have Newman Overload, you can check that episode out as well. So with that being said, we're going to call it a day.
That's a wrap on another edition of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Thank you to all the awesome listeners out there. Without you, there is no us. Thank you to all our great guests who drive this show, and also our wonderful sponsors who help us produce the great hobby content every week. Remember, another Hobby Quick Hits episode drops every Monday, and Sports Card Nation returns again next Friday. If you like the shows, we appreciate those positive reviews. Be well, and always remember, the hobby is the people.